to The Catholic Perspective, a podcast brought to you by rcspirituality.org. Enjoy the episode.
Some straight talk about social justice, Part 2.
Philosophers through the ages have likened human society to a large ship. Just as a ship is meant to take its passengers and crew on a journey to safety and prosperity through the treacherous waters of the sea, so human society is meant to help its members better achieve their dreams of freedom and happiness. Social justice is a term the Church uses to refer to a healthy ship, to a society whose members are working well together and heading in the right direction. The common good is the most important principle of the Church's teaching about social justice. It is the goal and measuring rod of social justice. It refers to the sum total of social conditions that enable individuals and groups to achieve their fulfillment more easily and more completely by assuring respect for human rights, prosperity, and peace. It is the thickest of the three pillars of Catholic social doctrine and has an entire talk dedicated to it. But alone, it can't support the immense weight of social ethics. It needs the other two pillars as well, subsidiarity and solidarity. Those are the topic of this talk. Subsidiarity is a fancy word for a simple principle, but it's a principle too often misunderstood or ignored, with tragic results. The principle states that a community of a higher social order, like a local or national government, should not interfere with the internal life of a community of a lower social order, like a family or a school, depriving the latter of its functions. Rather, it should support it in case of need and help coordinate its activities with the activities of the rest of society, always with a view to the common good. This is common sense. It stems from the human person's innate need and ability to form societies. Some of these societies are found everywhere because they are built right into human nature, like the family and the state. Others spring from human creativity, like universities or country clubs or businesses. But in both cases, mankind's natural socializing capacity should be respected, for the same reason that all human rights should be respected, because the dignity of the human person deserves it. Respecting this socializing capacity is called subsidiarity. The principle of subsidiarity imposes three types of responsibilities on society: non-interference, necessary assistance, and coordination. A look at the image of the ship will show how it works. The captain of a big cruise ship is in charge of making sure that all his passengers reach their destination. But the large community of passengers is made up of many different smaller communities: the cooks, the engineers, an immigrant family, a group of pilgrims from Argentina, the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. Each of these groups has their own activities and purpose, which the other groups and the captain have a duty to respect. Under normal circumstances, neither the captain nor the engineers have any right to meddle in the rehearsals of the choir, or to forbid the Argentinians from speaking Spanish. These societies of a lower order have the right to pursue freely their own goals, and the societies of a higher order, like the ship's crew and the Coast Guard, have a duty to respect those rights. This aspect of subsidiarity is called non-interference, not usurping the legitimate autonomy of communities of a lower order. When governments dictate how many children families can or cannot have, or when they stifle personal initiative by forbidding private property, or when they terrorize the press, they are violating the principle of subsidiarity. Instead of respecting the autonomy of communities of a lower order, they are eliminating it. That's not fair. It's a form of injustice. But the ship's authorities also have a second duty: to protect the ship as a whole and ensure that the passengers reach their destination. So if the immigrant family suddenly fell sick with pneumonia, the captain would have a responsibility to make sure they receive medical attention. He would also be responsible to ensure the health of the other passengers. Maybe a doctor on board can take care of the problem, but otherwise it falls to the captain and his crew to find a fair solution. This is the second side of subsidiarity: societies of a higher order giving assistance to those of a lower order when they can't fulfill their purpose on their own. One of the reasons that people live in communities is precisely this: to be able to receive the support they need in order to fulfill their individual and communal goals. This assistance can be either direct or indirect. Weak members of society often need direct assistance, as when entire populations are left injured and destitute by natural disasters, and the National Guard has to step in. Strong members of society also sometimes require direct regulation, laws against monopolies, for example, to avoid creating an unjust economic environment. Indirect assistance can come in the form of laws that encourage groups and individuals to contribute to the common good, to assist those who are in need, or pursue projects that will have a widespread positive effect on the rest of society, like tax incentives that motivate companies to support works of charity, or fellowships and grants that encourage cultural and scientific advancement. Finally, subsidiarity also calls for a prudent coordination of the many different communities within a society. The captain needs to set some parameters for the activities of the passengers so that they don't damage the ship, like no shuffleboard in the engine room, for example. The principle of subsidiarity, the delicate balance between non-interference, necessary assistance, and coordination between communities of a higher and lower social order, is the antidote to totalitarianism. By allowing intermediary societies to flourish, it avoids the Big Brother syndrome, where the government controls every detail of citizens' lives, stifling initiative, creativity, and responsibility. Subsidiarity is a dependable landmark along the way to the common good, but it's not the only one. Solidarity is equally important. Solidarity is more like a virtue than a principle. Simply put, as the Church has defined it, it refers to the firm and lasting determination of individuals and groups to promote the common good. It flows from the principle that human beings are meant to live in society, that they can only achieve their full potential by living in society, and therefore every person should cultivate a vibrant awareness of belonging to a larger community. That awareness will create an openness and a generosity on the part of individuals and groups towards other groups and towards society as a whole. Solidarity is a social virtue that makes a healthy society possible. It's an attitude that looks on others, all others, as brothers and sisters, not as enemies and rivals. Only if each member of society cares about the common good and is willing to work side by side with others to pursue it, can society achieve its glory. Solidarity is the antidote to individualism, the narrow mindset by which citizens consider themselves self-sufficient, full of rights but free from duties, aloof from the needs of their neighbors, either the ones close by or those far away. The individualist is interested only in himself and in his comfort zone. The solidarist is also interested in his neighbor and his neighbor's comfort zone. If a fire breaks out in the cruise ship's engine room, legally speaking, the gentlemen up on the recreation deck aren't required to leave their poker game to help put it out. But it would be a good idea for them to do so, both to save their own skin and for the benefit of everybody else on board. That's solidarity. In times of crisis, the natural sense of belonging to society can make itself felt more acutely than in times of ease. When your country is at war, you don't think twice about conserving energy and food and raw materials in order to help the war effort. But when your community is enjoying peace and prosperity, solidarity takes real virtue, real effort to take an interest in others. Certainly, not every college student in the United States has a moral responsibility to fight hunger in Bangladesh. But it should matter to them that there is hunger in Bangladesh. And the way they formulate their life goals and plan their careers and pay attention to the needs of their campus and their local community should be affected by that same attitude. The attitude, as Pope John Paul II put it, that you are indeed your brother's keeper. Think of solidarity like this. Every human being is a member of one family, the human family. Every person has the same dignity as you or I, the same free will, the same yearning for fulfillment. Every person has been created by God to live in friendship with Him now and for all eternity. Every person has been redeemed by Christ's sacrifice on the cross. He didn't die to win salvation just for some, but to offer it to all. So the truth is, that we really are all one family because of our common human nature and our common human vocation. Consequently, each of us should think of and treat every member of that family with the respect and dignity you would demand for yourself or for your own closest blood relations. Imagine how different the world would be if everyone thought in those terms. It wouldn't end conflict and injustice completely, even families have their troubles, but it would definitely make a big difference. This is why the many social ideologies that promote class warfare and violent revolution as necessary means of progress are off base. The differences among people in human society are not in themselves evil or unjust. They merely manifest natural, God-given inequalities of talent and resources. But those kinds of inequalities can go hand in hand with equal opportunity and respect for the basic rights of all, if the members of society live the virtue of solidarity, the virtue that drives each person to actively pursue and contribute to the common good. Both solidarity and subsidiarity are essential for the common good. These are the three pillars of a healthy human society. They provide the sole and solid foundation for a truly just society, for true social justice. These principles are valid for every level of human society and every kind of social group. They apply to the global community, they apply to your national community, they apply to your state and local communities, even to your university, your workplace, and your family. These principles, which are equally valid for non-believers because they derive from human nature itself, truly are part of the treasure that Catholics have to offer the world, a world so desperately in need of truth, guidance, and light. To ignore this teaching, to leave it languishing inside papal encyclical after papal encyclical, would be to fall into the error of the servant who buried his talent instead of investing it. When the master returned from his journey, he called that servant wicked and lazy and sent him into the outer darkness. On the other hand, to study this teaching, to familiarize yourself with it, and, most importantly, to form the habit of evaluating social issues and guiding your own actions in accordance with it now, so that later on you can become like leaven, making your communities and human society as a whole rise towards the beautiful ideal that God has set for it, and spreading the benefits of true justice to all your neighbors, those close at hand and those far away. That would be following in the footsteps of the wise servants who invested their talents and gained a profit. To them the master said, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. Come, share your master's joy." And that's some straight talk about social justice, part 2.
Got questions about the Catholic Church? The Straight Talk series makes key Catholic issues easier to understand. These explanations aren't meant to be exhaustive treatments, but instead offer clear reference points for the Catholic perspective. Straight Talk about the Catholic Church.
You have been listening to The Catholic Perspective, a resource from rcspirituality.org. Please visit our website and check out more great resources to help you pray, learn, grow, and go. Please join our team of digital missionaries by subscribing at rcspirituality.org.